Hello, thank you so much for making time. And today, as usual, I'm going to share a few thoughts, thoughts that matter to me as an individual, and thoughts I perceive will matter to fellow Ghanaians and other people around the world. We live in a country where there is religious, peaceful coexistence, a country in which Muslims are a little disadvantaged because we joined the caravan quite late. Historically, the main reason Muslims have not been at the forefront of events in terms of governance, in terms of being technocrats, and in terms of holding the fort was that when the colonial masters came, even let's go a little before the arrival of the colonial masters. The religion we practice as Islam in the world today started off in the Middle East. For a good part of the 13 years, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, may the blessings and peace of God be upon him, lived in Mecca. Islam did not embrace any form of governance system because we were still struggling to find our feet. But the years that were spent in Medina were years that laid the cornerstone for putting up a political structure, so to speak. And from there, Islam spread far and wide. The idea of a standing army, the idea of a free and fair court, and the idea of coexistence in peace with other people, the idea of protecting non-Muslims and the Muslim rule, all of those were set in motion. So on this side of the world, the people that brought Islam to us were largely traders. And apart from the Hausa people, everybody has read about the efforts of Osman Danfodio and a host of others. Then Musa Mansa and others in the old Ghana Empire, the Malian Empire, and the Songhai Empire. All of these empires had a great Islamic influence. So to a large extent in Ghana, we credit the Hausa people from northern Nigeria. That is how come there is a Hausa bias in the way we look at Islam in this part of the world. Zongo chiefs, the paramount chiefs or the overall, chiefs in Zongo communities and trace their roots to Hausa land. And also even the national chief imam, who is a Kassina, traces his root because we think there is always an umbilical cord between the pristine source of the religion and wherever it goes to. And Hausas from northern Nigeria played a very important role. Then the Jula people, the Wangara people, they also played a very important role in bringing Islam to West Africa or to the Republic of Ghana. Then during the colonial era, before then, there was no structured language because Europe in itself had lived in wilderness. They didn't have a structured, way of doing things. The Roman numerals wasn't complete until the advent of the Sifr or the zero by Islamic intellectual traditions. So documentation was done largely in the Arabic language, which is the lingua franca of Muslims around the world. So therefore, we had a very good start. We had a head start even before the First World War in 1914, despite the crusades that were waged against us in the Middle East and North Africa. Islam was seen as the only semblance of a global organization. And before the League of Nations came, we were there. The Ottoman Empire was very big. It spanned the Middle East through to Europe, and then, of course, where we have Constantinople, Turkey, and then parts of Spain, Andalusia. Romania was under Muslim rule, parts of, Italy, southern Italy, all of those were under Muslim rule. So therefore, Arabic was very powerful. Then after some time, when we lost touch with the true teachings of this religion, something really went bad. Umar ibn Khattab, one of the political successors to the Holy Prophets, is reported to have said, نحن قوم أعزنا الله بالإسلام فإذا ابتغينا العزة بغيره أذلنا الله. We are a people Allah has given dignity, and because we've embraced Islam, if we seek dignity using anything other than Islam, Allah is going to humiliate us. So after some time, we lost it completely. We used to take the initiative. Muslims used to dictate world politics, but we lost all that because of infighting, sectarian divisions and all that. So it got to a time in the Gold Coast, anybody who took their son or daughter to a Western style school other than the Makaranta, the person ended up becoming a Christian, because one of the objectives of the missions or missionaries was that they would bring you knowledge, Western knowledge, and Christianize you at the same time. So you hardly come across a Muslim young man or young lady today who is a third generation or a fourth generation university graduate. I have parents who never sat in a classroom. My mom, didn't go to school. Even if she did, it was only for a short while. I don't know. If we are counting unlettered people, I would include my mom's name, because she had Islamic education. She didn't have Western education. My dad too. He had some Islamic education. He didn't have, Western education. And so I would be, a first generation graduate or postgraduate in my family. There are only a few Muslim families where you have somebody who is a graduate today, his dad or mom was a graduate, and their grandparents were graduates. It's a rarity. It's an oddity in the Muslim community. Only a few instances. So we joined the caravan quite late, largely because our grandparents and our great-grandparents wanted to guard the sanctity of our religion, Islam, because anybody who went to school to a certain level during those times would Christianize, would become a Christian, would be Christianized. So we joined quite late. So we are still struggling to find our feet and our true identity. That is why up to this time, we are seen to be playing second fiddle. The two major political parties, if they want to win power, they say they will get someone who is a Christian and then pair them up with someone who is a Muslim. So like we are playing second fiddle, literally. So it's an admitted fact that we started Western education quite late for legitimate reasons, because people wanted to, protect their faith. Then thank God, in the past few decades, maybe 6, maybe 7, in the history of the Republic of Ghana, and mind you, our great-grandparents fought in the trenches during the Second World War. We've been an integral part of the independence struggle every step of the way. So Muslims are not aliens in the Republic of Ghana. We are an integral part of this country's nationhood and its destiny. So therefore, I don't fault anybody who wants to be a politician. I don't fault anybody who wants to serve at the very pinnacle of the governance structure or system in the Republic of Ghana. But the point is, Do we have our best foot forward? Do we have our best feet forward? Are those who represent us on the altar of being like us, Muslims, or in some cases they say Northerners, even though not all Northerners are Muslims, are they really representing us? Help me do a roll call of Muslim MPs and other politicians. What groundbreaking initiatives have they individually and collectively introduced for the betterment of the Muslim community? There is a friend of mine, he's from Kumasi, he's called Abdul Basit, a very promising fellow young person. He uses Don Basito on social media. We were having a conversation. He said some churches can boast of taking people through school until graduation. But look around the world, show me a single mosque that can boast that this Muslim lawyer or this Muslim engineer or this young lady who is a Muslim and a nurse, we took care of her or the mosque took care of her. Many of the people you see that are made in our communities are self-made. There is no support system. So if today we have representatives, people who should stand for our rights, people who hitherto were modest teachers, people who hitherto were modest lawyers, people who hitherto were into small and medium enterprises, if they have the opportunity to control millions of Ghana cedis or hundreds of thousands of Ghana cedis, what have they done for the Muslim community? What have they done? I hear there is a caucus in Parliament, the Muslim caucus. When has this caucus ever spoken on our behalf? When? When has this caucus in Parliament that is called the Muslim caucus spoken on our behalf? I don't know, you may want to educate me. What are the palpable, tangible projects on the ground that they've been able to implement or create for us in our communities? I hear when Ramadan is about to end, they have some light of power or something, Laylatul Qadr. It's beautiful. We are happy. If there is Muslim representation in the symbols of our statehood or nationhood as a country, in parliament, the executive arm of government, in the judiciary, we are happy. The most leading judge we have is Justice Tanko. He's an appeals court judge. We are happy when we have people represent us at the very, top. But then the politicians, judges may not have the kind of influence politicians do. We've had 2 Muslim vice presidents. His Excellency of blessed memory, Alhaji Aliyu Mahama, and currently His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We still have hope. We still have hope that there will be palpable legacies we'll remember these important national figures for. Sometimes, some of these MPs and politicians, not all of them, they're only concerned about their wives and their children. When their wives get pregnant, they ferry them or fly them to the United States to give birth so their children don't grow in Zongo and don't face the kind of vagaries of life they faced There's nobody who will fault you for seeking a better future or an upbringing better than yours in your time when you were a child for your child today. Nobody will do that. But then, do you turn back to look at the community from which you came? And what have you done for the community? Is life all about announcing your presence at social functions in a grand style, coming in a big four-wheel drive? After some time, you lose that power. How many people have you empowered? How many people have you empowered? Won't you feel proud that you would say, I raised 10 business young men and women during my time in Parliament? Won't you feel proud if after retiring from active politics, you look back and say, during my time as a minister, I was able to raise these 10 young men and women who are now in positions of privilege to help other people in our communities? Where is the Zongo Fund? Where is the Muslim caucus in Parliament? Is it all about having access to so much money, being flush with cash? Then you come back to the community, marry the fair-looking, fair-colored, model-looking women in our communities? Is that all politicians can offer us? Is that all politicians can offer us? They have a very modest lady as a wife during their modest life as a teacher or a lawyer or someone who is running a small or medium enterprise. They go to Parliament or they become ministers, and in no time they live in a mansion. They want to take a second or a third wife. They come and bargain for the most beautiful in the community. Is that all you can offer us? Where are the libraries? Look at the scholar in which our people are living. Where are the initiatives? What have you done to tackle drug addiction in our communities? What have you done to tackle lack of support systems for fellow Muslims? There's a verse in the Holy Quran, Quran chapter 51, verse 55. It says, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and remind, because indeed the reminder befits the Muslims. I say mention one Muslim politician. One, don't go beyond one. Whether an MP or someone who has become a minister before or is a minister. Tell me one concrete thing beyond the agenda they set for their political parties they are doing for the Muslim community. Tell me one thing. It's not enough to come for a Maulidi and then you say, I've donated 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 taxpayers' money. It's not enough to be given one ram to some chief or imam somewhere. What are the concrete initiatives you have so that poverty, illiteracy, disease will be a thing of the past in our communities? There are young people who are hardworking, but they couldn't go to school to a certain level. All they need is a little push. Some are artisans. Some need as little as 1,000 or 2,000 Ghana cedis to start a business. In the past 3 decades, or 4 decades, or since Nkrumah's time, show me one single Muslim, whether in the House of Legislature or somebody who serves with the executive arm of government as a secretary or a minister or a deputy minister, who has done one groundbreaking thing for Muslims in this country. In 2010, there was a national population census that enumerated people, and there is strength in numbers. Anybody who tells you there is no strength in numbers is not being candid to you. After the population census, look, me, I'm born to a dad who has 2 wives. Together with my stepbrothers, we are 10. That is just one modest family. My granddad gave birth to 43 daughters and sons before he died. There are families with even bigger offspring. And we've lived in this country as Muslims for centuries, if not a whole millennium. And there is a Zongo community attached to every single major vicinity in the Republic of Ghana. And what was the outcome of the 2010 National Population Census? They said we were a little shy of 16% or so. People who can marry 4 wives. There are men with 15 children. So there is going to be another national population census only a year from now. What is the Muslim caucus in parliament doing? What are the Muslim politicians doing? Do they even care to do a forecast? Because if the right figure is declared to the world, that Muslims make up 35% of this country's population, Muslims make up 55%, 50%, 40%, the benefit doesn't come to only the Muslim community. It opens up opportunities, investment opportunities from the Gulf. Ghana can join the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, which is the second largest global organization after the United Nations, made up of Muslim countries and countries with good Muslim populations or percentage of Muslims. Islamic Development Bank, getting soft loans, interest-free loans. We will be counted again in 2020. The choice is ours, whether to continue to play second fiddle, both in numerical strength and in influence in the Republic of Ghana. And in Ghana, when you draw people's attention to something, when you tell people, you prod people to do a reality check, some may misconstrue. Nobody hates Muslim politicians or Muslim MPs. Nobody hates them. We love seeing them get successful. But when they are successful, how much does the community benefit from their success? Look at the hijab ban in schools and some workplaces. Look at the debate on the hijab. How many Muslim politicians were able to bite the bullet and challenge the status quo? How many? How many? And then again, when we say we want Muslims, very soon there will be a Muslim president, whether we like it or not. There will be a Muslim president for the Republic of Ghana. Will it be in the next election, the next 2 elections, the next 10 elections, the next 20 elections? It is bound to happen, whether I am alive or dead, or you are alive or dead. But what kind of a Muslim will we beat our chest in pride to say is the first Muslim president of the Republic of Ghana? Those who are Muslims and they represent us in high places, how much Islam do they know? And how much Islam do they exhibit? Are they Muslims only in name? Or they are Muslims indeed, representing our interests, fighting for us, pursuing our collective good? These are the issues. Okay. So I hope this helps, and I hope nobody misconstrues this message. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye-bye.